Hello, I'm Dr. Marty Kashara from the University of Wolverhampton, Associate Professor for Engagement in STEM. And welcome to the My Life in Science podcast, a specially commissioned podcast for West Midlands Life Sciences Week. Now, hopefully we all know that the West Midlands is a region full of pioneers that are driving change. We've got world-class universities, world-class research institutions, and a vibrant ecosystem of business and organisations that are creating breakthroughs in healthcare and the life sciences. West Midlands Life Sciences Week is bringing together business leaders, researchers, investors and policymakers to showcase what makes this region absolutely exceptional and hopefully shape the future of the life sciences industry. Now, what we're doing here on the My Life in Science podcast is we're meeting some of those people that are driving this change. They are driving innovation in our region and finding out all about them and what influences they have in their industry. And today I am very pleased indeed to say that I'm joined by Ellen Daniels, who's Chief Executive Officer of the British Compressed Gases Association. How you doing, Ellen? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join us on the My Life in Science podcast today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
So what we've been doing is on all of these broadcasts, I'd like to call them, we are kicking off by finding out a little bit about the people that we're speaking to. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us about your journey of how you've got to where you've got today.
Sure. So, funnily enough, I've worked in sciences for nearly 9 years or 10 years, but I am not a scientist. So I've been chief exec of the British Compressed Gas Association for 5.5 years. Before that, I worked for the British Coatings Federation. So you can probably see a theme here with trade associations. They represent paint and ink manufacturers. And I did public affairs for them. So I was really involved on the policy and political side of sciences. I was never any good at science at school, unfortunately, but I am so fortunate that now I can work in such an amazing sector without having actually been a scientist.
How is it being a non-scientist? Is it easy being a non-scientist working with people who are obviously sciencey?
Yeah, I find it absolutely fascinating because I'm so curious and I ask so many questions. And I then have to tend to communicate the answers to the likes of politicians or other non-sciencey people. So I like to try get into the details and understand why things happen.
Do you think it's easier for you to explain some of those things because you've got to maybe sometimes learn it from the ground up to be able to explain it to somebody else?
Maybe not easier, but it gives me an excuse to ask all the experts what I deem stupid questions.
There are no stupid questions, especially in my classroom.
Very true.
I hope some of the questions that I certainly going to ask you today don't fall into that category.
I'm sure they don't.
But let's kick off. And I've been a practicing scientist for more than 20 years. And, compressed gases have been something that are part of the laboratory. They're absolutely essential, particularly in the life sciences, in our everyday life as scientists. But can you tell us why, in particular, gases are so vitally important in the life sciences, particularly in the West Midlands, perhaps?
My trade association represents about 120 different companies who make compressed gases or are involved in compressed gases. And a lot of these companies are in the West Midlands as well, based around Birmingham and that sort of area. And in life sciences, compressed gases form such a fundamental part of life sciences, whether you're talking about medical oxygen in hospitals, nitrous oxide, for example, right through to MRIs, and it's not just the life sciences, it's life in itself requires compressed gases. Our mobile phones, the chips in those are treated with compressed gases.
Wow, I'd never have even thought. So it's absolutely intrinsic. CO2 is something that we use
Yeah.
extensively in the life sciences, particularly when we're culturing cells, for instance. So it's absolutely vital. And I mean, if you just simply take a train from Wolverhampton to Birmingham, you will see an extremely big gas supplier. Naming no names today because we're not advertising anybody in particular. But you can see that it is a key part of our industry here in the West Midlands. I guess then, so the West Midlands Life Sciences Week is thinking about innovation and innovative business and ideas and bringing people together. But in terms of the innovation that might come from the use of compressed gases, then where do you see new things gaining traction? What can you see on the horizon? Is the future for the use of these kinds of materials?
I think hydrogen's a huge thing that we talk about within compressed gases. I mean, we hear about it a lot on the news as well, and from the government. And I think the use for hydrogen, particularly in transport, could be innovative, whether that's cars, we see hydrogen planes as well. There is so much going on in terms of innovation with hydrogen.
We touched very briefly there on what we could call the green gas revolution, and we already have buses in Birmingham city centre that are running on hydrogen. I know even right now they're out there. And it's going to be an important development for our life sciences industry, this transition to a green energy economy. So what do you think the biggest benefits are, but also the biggest hurdles potentially to rolling out an infrastructure like this for the West Midlands?
I think probably regional differences, and maybe I mean the fact that you've got it in Birmingham is fantastic, but I think the regional differences across the country are stark in terms of being able to roll these sorts of things out. And it's also just down to understanding and education as well. I mean, at BCGA, we try to educate the decision makers, the politicians, and the policy makers. But there's a lot of voices shouting at government at the moment, and there's a lot of things going on in the world. So I think one of the biggest challenges is trying to get their attention on something like this that could make such an enormous difference.
Yeah, so do you think there'll be a time when we'll pull into a forecourt of and I know there are these places around the country, but not very many. Do you think there'll be a day where we pull in and in my Ford Escort and fill it up with a tank full of hydrogen?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, there are places around the country where you can do that, but I think it will become, or I hope it will become more and more popular.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's challenges. I use hydrogen for a number of things. Exciting demonstrations in science, for instance, is a frivolous way in which I use it in my practice as a public engagement specialist. But thinking about the public, do you think there's a misconception in the public about just how dangerous hydrogen is? Because it does explode. So do you think that's a challenge that needs to be addressed?
I think that's quite historical concerns of people thinking that. And I mean, a lot of my members, they're the ones who have been using hydrogen safely, I will add, for sort of 50, 60 years. They are the experts. And at BCGA, we write lots of safety and technical documents for these companies explaining how to safely use them. So I think it's about spreading the word that actually these gases have been used safely for a very, very long time. It's just historically there may have been one or two incidents a very, very long time ago that people remember.
There's lots of these challenges, I think, within the life sciences where public perception is actually, I don't want to use the word fake news, but there is already a public perception that needs to be changed before something can be rolled out properly. And I think there's lots of challenges like that within the sciences.
Typically, I think compressed gases was seen as the invisible industry a long time ago. Because it's really foundational, right? Like, I mean, a lot of the use of gases in life sciences, for example, I mean, MRI scanners, they need helium, which I had no idea about until I started working at BCGA, but they're foundational and they are core to the operation of some of these things that we don't talk, we talk about it at BCGA, but kind of before I came to BCGA, you don't have awareness of these things.
No, that's right. We have here, as part of our analytical capacity here at the university, a nuclear magnetic resonance machine. And that NMR has to be cooled with liquid helium. That's a really interesting thing. You know, it's definitely the coldest place in the West Midlands, apart from other NMRs, I suppose. You've helped business through your organisation, your expertise, through a number of crises. We've had all sorts hit this country, from lockdowns to all sorts of things. And the biggest one for business, I guess, has been Brexit. We've had some challenges around supply chains and things like that. So how have you helped to keep your members on the right track through the crises like that?
My background, like I say, is in public affairs and working with politicians. So when there are crises, my go-to is really to communicate with whoever is making the decisions. I started at BCGA February 2020, which is obviously a fantastic time to start right at a pandemic when you represent medical oxygen manufacturers. But the first thing that we did when we saw the world locking down was we spoke to government. You know, we made them aware of who we were. There weren't very many links there. You know, we made sure that compressed gas company employees were key workers, for example. It was doing all that sort of thing. And then that came through to Brexit as well. At BCGA, we're part of lots of different stakeholder engagement groups, whether it's in life sciences, medicine, chemicals, and these have got direct links to government in. You know, we talk to our members regularly and, you know, we try to understand from them what it is they want from these crises. You know, we're the ones who take the steps, but they inform what we say when we do take these steps.
There may be other challenges on the horizon that are coming up for the businesses that you work with. How are you preparing for a changing world of business in the BCGA?
Given the changing world of business and what's going on geopolitically, it's all about communication, right? It's all about understanding from our members how they are impacted by various things. Supply chains are global, you know, and I think these crises, they haven't just impacted our sector, but they've impacted many sectors. But actually, what a lot of these crises have forced sectors to do is to understand their supply chains. Brexit forced various industries to understand, you know, 7 tiers of their supply chains going back. Likewise with COVID. So I think having that basis of understanding has actually then helped us to be able to communicate more with politicians. So when stuff does happen, when there are announcements that could impact trade or exports, we then don't need to scramble around like we or others may have done 10 years ago trying to find out information, because we've already got it and we've already got those links with government to be able to speak to them. But it's just about having open and clear communication and knowing who to speak to. And as long as you've got those things in place, then you can act quickly.
You are an intrinsic part of the planning for West Midlands Life Sciences Week. So what are your hopes for the whole event for our region?
Well, firstly, that it obviously be a fantastic event. But also, I think me being on the panel is more than just about the governance of it. Governance is obviously very important. But it's about creating a platform for kind of amazing innovators with these amazing minds to be able to connect researchers, industry, policymakers, and to help get life sciences the attention and understanding that it needs and deserves, and for it to be a launch pad to have even bigger and better events next year. And also, I think, given my kind of my non-science background, to give everyone, you know, an opportunity to see that you don't just have to be in a lab with a lab coat on for life sciences to kind of happen and to take place. Well,
Ellen, I think that's all the time we've got today. So I'd just like to say a massive thank you for joining us today. It's been fantastic speaking to you. So thank you very much for joining us today on the My Life in Science podcast.
Great, thank you.
The My Life in Science podcast was presented by Dr. Martin Kashara of the University of Wolverhampton and was a STEM response team production for West Midlands Life Sciences Week. If you want to know more about what's happening in your area, just jump online and go to wmlifesciencesweek, all one word, .co.uk to find out how you can be involved.